I'm back with another video, and this time it's gonna be a what sold, which I haven't done a traditional what sold video in probably about 5 months. And while I do think it's helpful to see what's selling, these just aren't videos that I typically watch. And so it's just never enters my mind. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I just go back in the last 3 months and find all my items that sold for over $50 and all my items that sold for under $10, so you can kind of see my highs and lows in the last 3 months. And ironically, it's 50 items over $50 and 10 items that were $10 or less that sold. And I went back and I was like, is this real? So I feel like it's meant to be that I do this video because the numbers worked out so perfectly. But this is pretty balanced between eBay and Poshmark, so I'll be sure to give you as much information as I can remember. But we're gonna start with the first one, which is a dress by a Japanese brand called 45 RPM. And this took over 2 years to sell. But to be fair, when I listed this over 2 years ago, there were no comps on eBay, there were no comps on Poshmark, and the retail price at the time for similar dresses were, I think it was between like $800 and $1,500 for a lot of them. So I aimed high, and I assumed if I started getting offers, I would maybe get an idea of what people were willing to pay for it. I think I did get some lowball offers, but I ignored them in the beginning and it just sat for a long time. It was in the back of my mind something where I thought maybe I could go and I could put it on a mannequin because I think I had it on a hanger and, do some different things with it. But I just typically, I'll photograph something, I'll list it, it goes in my inventory, and then I forget it until it sells. So this was one of those cases. Now on eBay, I do drop my prices about every 6 months. I can use the bulk feature on eBay. And I do drop prices slowly but surely. So I think I started this at $4.99 and I think it was right around $400 when I finally got an offer of $200 and I accepted. It's a great offer. I think at the time I probably spent, $8 to $10 on this. It wasn't something I paid up for, but yeah, some things do take a while to sell. Maybe it would have sold quicker if I had priced lower, but I also didn't know how to price, and that just sometimes happens. So I'm so thrilled it sold, and I think it was a great return, and it didn't take up much storage, so that's okay by me. All right, next up was a hard goods. I think this is the only hard goods that I got, and this was actually something my mom got in a box at a yard sale of just odds and ends for her antique booth, and she usually does check just quickly on Google Lens to see with certain items, is this anything of value? And sure enough, this French tin was, there were comps between $100 to $200 for many of them. And so she no longer sells on eBay. She still has her antique booths, but if it's something worth selling on eBay, she'll just give it to me and I'll list it. And so that's what I did. And I decided to do an auction on this, which I know some people ask, when do I do auctions? When do I not? If I don't know how to price something, maybe this is what I should have done with that dress, but I didn't at the time because I think it was relatively new with eBay at the time I listed that dress. But now that I feel very comfortable with eBay, if I find something and I'm just not sure what the value is for that exact item, I'll usually just put it on auction. I'll usually start something around $49 or $99 or even lower if I don't think it's a super high value, but I don't know where it could go. Anyways, moral of the story is it got bid up to $147. All of these prices, all of these first ones are eBay. I'll tell you when I switch to Poshmark, but all of them are the buyer did pay additional money for shipping. So this is the sale price. This does not include the shipping price. So with that, yeah, it was a interesting item. I was able to get information off of other solds and I was really quite thrilled with that. So thank you, Mom. She didn't pay much. She got it in a big box at a yard sale and I think she paid like $10 for the box and she got, 20 items or something like that. So I think she thought it was just kind of cute. And yeah, so she probably paid less than $1 for it, and that's a great flip. All right, the next one was a long sleeve men's t-shirt, and I found this fairly recently within the last couple months, and it sold within a day or two, and it was flawed. It sold for $115, and the brand was called Tough Crowd. It did have a slight discoloration or stain on it. I looked up comps, and a lot of these were selling between $100 to $200. It was this inside out t-shirt, so all the seams were exposed, but the graphic was on that side, so I knew it was supposed to be kind of that worn look. Anyways, it had this large graphic, I think, on the back, and then right here on the neckline, a crew neck, it did say Tough Crowd on it somewhere. Anyways, I'd never seen the brand, never seen anyone talk about it. I'm sure people have found it, but it sold very quickly and for great money. And with a t-shirt like that, I'm sure I only spent about $4 or $5. And I remember it was on a new rack. So, but honestly, I feel like a lot of people would have passed that up because it was flawed and it just didn't look like anything special. In those situations when something is unique, like tough crowd on the collar and a big graphic, I'm curious. I think that curiosity leads me to looking things up, and I'm glad I did. So, all right, next up was a Sandro Paris men's jacket. This was kind of a chore style jacket. It had pockets, I think, on a couple spots on the front. I don't have any of my pictures up, so I'm going off of memory here, but hopefully you can see the pictures I pop up with this video. And which I feel like I should maybe go to one side so that I can put a larger picture up. Let's do that. So this was Sandro Paris is a very hit or miss brand for me. I really want to make sure I look up that style before I even pay regular retail price for it. I've picked up some Sandro Paris and I get excited and I think the style is nice, but I don't find that exact style, and it sits and it doesn't really sell for that much. In this case, because the style of jacket was a great basic, I think it was marked up a little bit. I had a coupon in a regular Goodwill, and so I paid somewhere around maybe $12 to $14, and it sold for $110 pretty quickly within a week or two. So it didn't take long. It had a great return, and I was definitely happy about that. But I am picky with Sandro Paris, not to be confused with Sandro, the other one that is not Sandro Paris. So how can you tell the difference? There are two different Sandros out there. Sandro Paris typically says Sandro, and then usually Paris somewhere either on the material tag or on the regular tag. The other one, I can't remember. You guys can leave a comment below what the other Sandro is. Sandro Sport, I think, is the other one. And that is not the same thing. I can't say don't pick it up because I've never actually looked up comps, but I believe that's a relatively affordable brand that doesn't have high comps, if I had to guess. But yeah. All right, moving on. There was a dress that I picked up recently, and this was a really nice summer dress. It was a cotton material, but kind of had a linen-like feel to it. Very colorful. It had these cutouts. When I first went to go take pictures, I thought I couldn't figure out how it was supposed to go on the mannequin. And when I did a quick Google lens search, I found the exact dress and it was completely backwards. I did something with the side. It was terrible. I don't think I have the original pictures I took of it, but let's just say it was a halter and I don't know what I did, but I got it right. I retook the pictures, got it right, and it sold pretty quickly within a couple weeks. It sold for $99, and yeah, I'm sure someone's gonna go somewhere fun with that. It was definitely a colorful dress, and it was the first time I found Tanya Taylor. So new brand to me, and I was happy with that flip. All right, a quick break to mention the sponsor of today's video, which is no surprise. It is Primelister. Primelister is the only cross-listing service that I tried, spent my own money on before ever getting sponsored by them. And honestly, there were so many reasons why I decided to go with them. It's, in my opinion, it's the best platform. It's one of the most cost-effective. Their service, their support system is incredibly helpful, and it helps me make more money, which I think is definitely the point. So just to mention a little bit about Primelister in case you have forgotten about what I've said about them, or if maybe you're new and this is the first time you're hearing about them. Primelister offers two main reseller tools. One is cross-listing and the other is Poshmark automation. And so if you are on Poshmark and you're tired of sharing or you're tired of manually sending offers, having something like Primelister to automate that for you can help you make more money, can simplify your life, can save you time. And honestly, it is a complete game changer on that platform. And if you have been frustrated with Poshmark or any of the platforms and you want to add a second or third or fourth platform and get your stuff cross-listed, you can also subscribe to their cross-listing service, which is fantastic. I have cross-listed for many, I would say probably 2 to 3 years, solid 2 to 3 years, I cross-listed on my own without any help. And while it is possible, the hardest thing about doing that is transferring the photos. It's time consuming to go find photos. Maybe you've already deleted photos. And so the fact that they kind of copy and paste everything over to another platform saves me so much time and helps me get more listed and make more money. So Primelister is honestly the only platform I will use for those two things. There is a code down below. You can try Primelister for free and also get a discount on your first month if you choose to move forward with it. Again, you can choose just the cross-listing or just the Poshmark automation, or if you're like me and you want both, you can definitely use both and just learn one platform. So again, Primelister, thank you so much for supporting this channel. I really use this platform every single day, and it helps me make more money and it simplifies my life, which is really important. So back to the sales. All right, on to another sale over $50. This is a sweatshirt. The company is called Best Made Co. I've actually sold this brand once or twice before. And this brand was acquired by, I believe, Duluth Trading Company. And it was based out of New York. It had a pretty loyal following. So you'll maybe find it out in the wild under Best Made Co. But yeah, the 2 items or 3 items that I've sold have all sold very quickly for a decent amount. This was a sweatshirt that was pretty sought after. I believe this actually went to a viewer, Dawn, who has supported me with multiple purchases over the years. So thank you, Dawn. I hope you enjoyed that sweatshirt. But this sold for $99 and it did sell pretty quickly within a couple weeks. And yeah, I love finding that brand. It's a rare one, but it has a good return for me so far. All right, next up was a pair of Fry harness boots. There's actually 2 harness boots on this list. I think one sold on eBay and one sold on Poshmark. Ironically, the one that I thought was going to sell for less money sold for more, and that's this one. So these boots were a size 5.5. And, you know, small sizes and larger sizes, while it can be good to have a variety of sizes, it's probably a smaller group of people that need that size. And so I was a little nervous about picking them up because they were pretty tiny, but I decided to list them. And they sold within a month for full price of $99, which was fantastic. And they did have some signs of wear, so I was thrilled with that. All right, next up was a bag by a brand called Mary Alice Palmer. And I found this bag. It was a red leather bag. It had this intricate kind of floral detail, and it was kind of more of a structured tote. The comps were a little mixed, but I decided to grab it. It was a regular thrift store. I think it was in a thrift with me. And I listed pretty high because although some of the comps were more in the 40-50 range, this red color really stood out. It had light signs of wear. It was in good condition. So I aimed high. I listed it for $99. And my nose keeps itching. I'm not sure what's blooming outside, but oh man, it's just one of those itchy nose days. Anyways, the bag, I had a woman, she sent me a message. She was asking about the condition. She loved this brand and she really loved this bag, but she was worried about it. And she finally sent me an offer for $70. I accepted. And I got a wonderful eBay feedback from her saying it was in much better condition than she expected. And she loved the bag and she was super thrilled. So that definitely makes me happy when people are happy with their purchases. But it was the first time selling that brand. And I think it's more of a unique brand, but I'm happy with that sale. Next up were 2 pairs of pants, both sold on eBay, the exact size, exact same style. And one sold for $75. That was my first one. And then the second one sold for $65. So I listed them, I listed one at a time. I found 3 pairs. So I actually have 1 pair still listed. And the comps for this scuba crop ankle black pair of pants actually looked pretty good in that 50 to 60 range. So I listed one at $75. It sold within a couple days for $75 full price. And then immediately when that sold, I listed a second one. When the second one sold, I listed the third. Now, one of the reasons I have chosen to go this path is unless it's new with tags and in the exact same condition, I don't want to mix up pairs of pants. So sometimes I'll buy a multiple pre-owned type of item and they might be slightly different in condition. So for me, I just want to keep them separate. I'll list one at a time. I'll put that in inventory and that way I don't get them mixed up. So anyways, one sold for $75 fairly quickly. The other one sold in about a month for $65. And I've had this third pair listed for probably about a month and a half. And I'm anticipating it will sell somewhere between 50 to 60 in that range. So yeah, I was really happy. I think I paid up for one of them. They were all 3 in like black pants section. And I looked up the comps and sure enough, they had great comps. So I was really thrilled about that. All right, next up is a Lululemon fleece. The style of this was called the Fleecy Keen. I had this in a thrift with me as well, and it did have some light pilling. It was a size large. Also, I don't think I'm saying all the sizes on these, and I know a lot of people like to know the sizes, so because I'm showing the material tag, hopefully the size is there for you as well. My apologies. It was a lot to write down on my list since this was a big what sold, but this fleecy keen, I believe it was a size large or size 12 or something, because I remember trying it on, and the style actually did really well. Lululemon is so hit or miss, and when I looked it up, a lot of the comps were between 50 to 100. Because mine had pretty decent pilling, I decided to price on the lower end, and it still sold very quickly for a great return. So I was thrilled about that. All right, next up was a top that was an unusual style. It was an orange color, I believe it was linen, and it had buttons all the way down the front and also all the way down the back. And it wasn't decorative on the back. You could actually unbutton on both sides. Now the tag said Elemente Clemente was on the tag, but when I did some more research, I realized this is actually part of the Oska brand, Oska, and this was just a line from them. And Oska I've done fairly well with in the past, and so anyways, I did price high. It sold for $75, and it did take a while. It probably took close to a year, so a very specific buyer, but it finally sold, and I was really happy with that return. All right, next up was a really surprising brand for me, an item that I picked up that was really beautiful, embroidered cardigan. It had Johnny Was vibes, but when I looked at the tag, it said time for me, and I was like, this doesn't look like anything. But just to be safe, I decided to Google Lens it and look it up, and sure enough, a lot of these embroidered cardigans by Time for Me were selling 50 plus. So this was, I believe, a size large or extra large. Anyways, I priced pretty high, and it sold within a day or two for $69. Now, when you look up this brand Time for Me for other items, it's not like a high dollar brand, but these embroidered cardigans tend to do well. So that really surprised me, and it's a main reason why I look up comps and I try to narrow it down. Some brands can do well with most things. Other brands don't do well with most things, but maybe have an exception. This was that case. You want to say hi to your friends? Come here. No, you don't get to come up here. You can just say hi. Maybe you can't. They can't see you. I'm sorry. I know you're stressing out because was there a squirrel outside? Okay, you can lay down right there. She saw a squirrel on the deck right before I started filming, and she started going ballistic. So anyways, she's been panting and stressing this whole time. All right, next up was a brand that I sold a couple times called Blue Marine. And this shirt I found, and I knew the brand was pretty expensive and had a following, but the condition of this tee was not that great. It was colorful, but it had significant pilling all on the sides, and I decided to still grab it, and I listed pretty high. Sure enough, it sold pretty quickly for $80, and I disclosed all the flaws, and they still wanted it. So clearly there's a market for this brand, even if it's flawed, which I was thrilled about. All right, next up was a pair of boots that I just shipped out about a week ago. These were a military style boot by the brand Belleville, and I found these at the bins. They were pretty heavy, so I knew I was going to pay up for them because of the weight of them, but a lot of the comps were in the 50-ish range, 50, 60, 70 range. They had some pretty significant markings on the toe area, but they were still toe, and they were still in decent shape, wearable shape. So I decided to grab them, and they sold for $60. They took a few months to sell, but I was really thrilled about that. And I probably spent about $10 at the bins because of the weight. And so the fact that they sold for $60, I still made a really great return. All right, next up was a pair of pants by the brand Flannel. And when you looked at the material tag, it actually said like made in Australia or something like that. So it was a little hard to find comps for this brand because when you just put in flannel, you're going to get the material flannel or the style flannel. But when you put in Flannel Australia, fill in the word, like I put in Flannel Australia pants, I was able to find some pretty accurate comps, and they did pretty well. These, I believe, were a size large, and they were kind of a silk, casual, relaxed fit pant, and they sold for $60, and they did take a while. They took probably close to a year to sell. But again, I've got storage. I'm okay with that. I was happy with the return. All right, the next item was a skirt, and the brand is Fuzzi, Fuzzy. Anyways, I believe this is a brand off of, who's the designer? I'll write it on the screen if I can remember who the designer is that this is a sub-brand from, but I have sold it before, so I recognized it and knew it was technically a designer piece. I was a little worried on the style, but I decided to aim high and it sold for $60. It sold within a couple months and I was really happy with that return. All right, this next one was a pair of jeans, and I had these jeans listed for probably about 6 months. I got a lot of lowball offers, but I knew what I had, and Madewell is so hit or miss, but yeah, they were a desirable style. They were called the Emmitt Jeans, and they had this very subtle rainbow stitching around the pockets. And yeah, so I just kind of declined a lot of the lowball offers. They finally sold for $58, which was a reasonable offer, and I was happy about that. So I did wait a little bit, and I did decline some offers, but they finally sold for a reasonable price, and I know someone loves them. So I'm assuming someone loves them because they're such a fun style. All right, next up was a B. Mikowski bag. This bag was a black, kind of a glitter. It didn't have glitter on the outside. It just had like some silver threading throughout. So black and silver, metallic, I don't know. Anyways, I'm trying to visualize it. It was a really great bag in great condition. B. Mikowski actually does fairly well for me. Most bags are between $30 to $40. This one, because it had just kind of a little bit of pizzazz with the sparkle, I did price a little higher. That sold for $55 in probably about 4 or 5 months. All right, this next blouse sold, it was by the designer Millie. And I do not have much luck with this designer, but this had a key print all over it. And when I looked up similar prints by this designer, some of them were going $50, $60, $70. Now it is an expensive brand, but again, the resale value for me has never done well. And I have sold quite a few Millie pieces. But I decided to list high, and it did take a while. It probably took a year to sell approximately, but it finally sold for $63 and I was thrilled. All right, we have a few more eBay sales on this list. Next up is a Johnny Was tee, and this was a gray short sleeve t-shirt with some embroidery. Fairly typical Johnny Was style. I did get this at a regular thrift store, but I only paid, $4 or $5 for it. And there weren't any major flaws, so I listed a little on the high side. It sold within a few months for $55. Johnny Was is hit or miss. I'm learning not every Johnny Was piece is going to sell for a lot, but some of it can, and some of it is in more that mid-range, and I love a good $50 sale, or 55 in this case. But all right, next up was a CP Shades shirt dress. This one was actually listed for a while because maybe I listed a little on the high side, but I just like the style. And so it was just this button front shirt dress, casual, easygoing, very typical CP Shades, and definitely one of my favorite brands to pick up and resell. This sold for $55 and I was quite pleased with that. All right, next up was a Lazy Oaf sweater. I actually found this the same day as the Lululemon fleece that I mentioned earlier. So this was a regular thrift store. This was a colorful, multicolor, striped turtleneck sweater that was a little oversized. My first time finding this brand, and I was pleasantly surprised by the comps. So, and I know a number of people in that video said they did pretty well with Lazy Oaf, O-A-F. So, new brand for me, and it sold for $50 pretty quickly within a couple months, probably within a month. All right, the last item over $50 for eBay were a pair of climbing shoes, rock climbing shoes, and the brand was Butora. And I love picking up outdoor kind of stuff like that. I had taken some rock climbing classes when I lived in San Francisco. And so I did own a pair of climbing shoes at one point. So when I saw them, I knew exactly what they were. And yeah, those sold for $50. They did take a few months to sell, but I was thrilled with the return. All right. My nose is probably turning bright red because I keep scratching it and I know I need to stop, but it's just so itchy. All right, next up is Poshmark. So these are all the sales that were over $50 on Poshmark in the last 3 months for me. Starting with an Adidas jacket. This was an Adidas and Farm Rio collab. And I did find this at a regular thrift store. A lot of this was in Thrift With Me's and that kind of stuff. So you may remember it from one of those. But this sold for $125. I think it sold to a viewer, if I can remember correctly. So if it did, thank you so much for supporting my Poshmark closet. And if I missed anyone else, I'm so sorry. I was trying to come up with this list and yeah, but the jacket sold very quickly. Someone saw it in the video and purchased it that way, but the comps were great. A lot of the comps were right around that $100 mark. So a lot of fun. I'm glad it went to a great new home. All right, next up is a designer that it was my first time finding this designer. I'm going to butcher this, but someone can correct me on the pronunciation down below. I will put it on the screen as well because it's a fun one. The first name is Ann, A-N-N. The last name is Demeulemeister. That's my attempt. But I found this shirt. It was a button front shirt. On the back hem, bottom hemline, it had buttons and little holes for the buttons where you could kind of, how do I describe it? Create a little bit of a flap on that bottom hem. So it was kind of this interesting, unique design feature. And it is an interesting, unique designer. If you Google and look for some of the style, definitely interesting styles. And so I priced high. This actually sold for $111. I think it was full price. I think I had brought down the price at least once, and they bought it outright, and I was thrilled. So that's been off to its new home, and I hope they love it. All right, another fun one to pronounce or fail to pronounce correctly is a pair of jeans that I sold, another designer that I have sold a couple times. It's Mason Martin Margiela, something around there. Again, hopefully I'm showing a label or something or writing it on the screen. These jeans were men's and they sold for $100. They did take a few months to sell, so it wasn't a super quick flip, but I'm thrilled. If everything could sell for $100 in 3 months, I'd be a happy reseller. So I was really happy with that flip. Next up was an Alice McCall dress. I know I talked about this at one point. It maybe was in a day in the life or something like that. But this dress was what I would describe as kind of a Disney princess dress. And I honestly, if I didn't already know, if I hadn't already looked up that designer, I wouldn't probably have looked this up because it was different. But I had sold a skirt by this designer. I knew some of the stuff did well. I looked up this dress and did find that many of them were selling for $100 plus. So this actually sold for $100 pretty quickly within a couple weeks. And yeah, it went off to its new home. So I actually don't know if I mentioned this in a YouTube video, actually. I may have mentioned it on Instagram. And the point of the Instagram post was I didn't list this dress for like 6 months to a year because I couldn't get it on my mannequin and my photos were terrible. Even with terrible photos, I don't use stock photos, especially as my main photo. Occasionally, like in this instance, I did put it as my second photo, a stock photo, because my photos were so terrible. But yeah, I was really nervous about taking such terrible photos. It still sold pretty quickly, and it just goes to show if it's the right item, people will still buy it. So just get it photographed and get it listed. That's what I'm trying to say. And I have to remind myself of that. All right, next up was another Johnny Was item. This was a tunic with kind of this tropical leaf print. Maybe there were some birds on there. Anyways, this sold for $99, full price on Poshmark. And it was listed for a few months or a couple months, but I was really thrilled with that. All right, this next sale this is definitely something I don't enjoy about being a reseller and selling things to people, specifically on Poshmark where they don't allow returns. Is someone bought this pair of pants by Oak NYC, and they were my description was accurate. And I did, again, in this case, include a second photo with a stock photo because it had this drop crotch aspect. It had this unusual fit. If I can find it, I will put it here. But it was an unusual pair of pants. It was this scuba material and yeah, for the right buyer. So I couldn't find any sold comps for this, but I think someone had one of these listed for like $149. So I decided to list lower, and someone from Google bought it. So they weren't currently on Poshmark. Usually if someone buys something and they have some weird letters and numbers and it's kind of long, usually that means they just found it through a search on Google, and Poshmark has a way for someone to buy something without like creating an account, I believe. Anyways, so I knew he was coming from Google and not a regular Poshmark seller or buyer. And he bought it outright for $99, and he opened a case and said these fit, I think they were size medium, but he made the claim that these fit more like a size XL. And there's really no photos you can take with that. I provide measurements. I did show a stock photo to show it was a relaxed fit. It was an unusual fit, but he wasn't happy. And I never respond to any cases on Poshmark. And they sided with me, which some people would be like, great, you get paid. But on the other hand, this guy is probably never going to shop on Poshmark again because he was unhappy with his purchase. He was new to the platform, probably didn't know he couldn't return things when he purchased that. And it just kind of makes me a little sad. If he had bought that on eBay, he could have returned it with me, and all he would have lost is the shipping both ways. And it is what it is, but he wasn't happy with it because it didn't fit how he wanted. And yeah, but it still did sell for $99. And so I wanted to include it because this is a what's old. All right, next up are two pairs of the same exact shoe. One is in black and one is in tan. The black one sold for a little bit more, so I'll start with that one. These were some high platform shoes, same size, same style. The black one sold for $89. And they were a decent size. I want to say they were a size 9 or somewhere around there. Anyways, I listed them both the same, but I kind of suspected that the black ones would probably do a little bit better. And I did buy these regular price at a thrift store, so I probably spent, $10 to $12, somewhere around there, but well worth it. Both of them took a few months to sell, so yeah, not super quick flips, but the first one, the black one, sold for $89, and the tan one sold for $71. So really great return on both of them. Very funky style. I personally would have fallen if I tried them on, but that's just me. All right, next up was a pair of boots by Blvd. I think when I originally picked up these boots, I thought they were women's, but they weren't. They were men's, and I used Google Lens to find the exact style. They sold for $89. They did take a couple months to sell, but Blvd is just one of those brands I always love finding at the bins because they're a little hard to identify as far as the bottom of them, so a lot of people just throw them by the wayside. And if you know Blvd, you can usually spot them pretty easily. So I was pretty happy about that flip. All right, this next one was a knapsack that I bought. The brand is Poler, Poler. And it was basically, it's a sleeping bag that you can wear. I bought this at the bins. I thought it was a sleeping bag. I didn't even take it out. And when I got home, I realized it was new with tags, and it was this unusual knapsack wearable sleeping bag. So I actually found quite a few new with tags ones in different colors and prints that had sold for $50 to $100. So I think I priced this at $99. I got an offer for $84 within a week, and I accepted. I was really quite thrilled with that. So weight wise, I think it probably weighed about a couple pounds when it was all stuffed in the stuff sack. And so, I probably spent close to $5 on it, but still a really great flip. I think this is officially the hardest video I've had to do with my nose itching so much, but I'm going to push through. I just don't know why. What do you do when you have a really itchy nose? Oh my gosh. Okay, next up are two Patagonia pieces. One is a green fleece. It was the T-snap, the traditional kind of fleece, the chinchilla. I've sold those a lot. This was a size small. It was men's, and it sold for $79. It took, about a month to sell. The next Patagonia was a base layer that I've sold this exact style once before. And so I knew exactly when I found it that it was a desirable item that wasn't made anymore, or a rare item. So this one I got a couple lowball offers, but I kind of stood my ground. Is that the right word? Anyway, so this was the Capilene 4. It's a hooded base layer with kind of a half zip, and men's size large, and this sold for $79. I think there was one more Patagonia. I was kind of going in order of my list. There was one more Patagonia, and it was a cream and blue full zip fleece. This was the wool Yester is the style. I actually wore this a couple times. I was going to keep it, but then I just realized it didn't fit me how I wanted. And so even though I love Patagonia, I decided to sell it. That Patagonia did sell for $69, and I was really happy about that. So 3 really great Patagonia sales, all outerwear, or the exception being that one rare base layer, which I'm okay with. Again, I've said many times, I love Patagonia. I love to wear it. I love to source it. I love to sell it. But not all Patagonia is treated equally. So outerwear typically does well, and there's those exceptions with like a base layer or a rare piece, but typical clothing items, dresses, shorts, t-shirts don't do as well. And a lot of times I'll pass on those, even though I love the brand. So, all right, next up is another CP Shades piece. This was a pair of wide leg pants, linen pants. These sold for $75 within a couple days, I believe. So really quick flip. Again, I love CP Shades. They have a lot of casual lag and look style items, and they're from Northern California originally. So yeah, I love finding them. All right, another new brand for me was called Saint Motorcycle Jeans. These jeans, were they men's? No, they were women's jeans. I feel like I found some. Anyways, the style was the Unbreakable. I listed pretty high. They did take a while to sell, maybe 6 months, 9 months, but they ended up selling for $70. And yeah, I was happy about that. It's kind of a hit or miss brand, so I would definitely look them up again if I found that brand. But again, they weren't a quick flip, but a good flip in my opinion. All right, next up was a brand. It was a vintage style sweater by the brand Toastani, Tosani. It's kind of a style of like the Cosby sweaters or the Coogie sweaters. And is it Coogie? Am I saying that right? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I've heard other people say it. So Coogi. Anyways, I do not pick up Coogie jeans or other stuff, but if you find the Cosby style sweater, they can do really well. When I spotted this, I thought it was a Coogie, but it ended up being Toastani. I decided to look it up anyways, and they still had great comps. So this sold pretty quickly in less than a month for $70, and I was thrilled. All right, next up was the other pair of Frye boots. These were a size 8, I believe, and they also had some light signs of wear, but these still sold for $70. They sold on Poshmark, and Frye harness boots. They're mixed comps, but if you price right, you take good photos, and if they're in decent condition, they usually can garner $50 to $100, at least in my experience. And at least right now when I'm making this video. All right, next up was a cardigan by the designer Rick Owens. I love finding this designer. This cardigan was merino wool and did have a small hole, which I disclosed. It actually sold a year ago, and someone bought it on Poshmark, and then they sent me a note a couple days after, like right before I shipped it, and they said, oh, I just noticed the hole. I don't want it anymore. Can you cancel this order? I canceled it. I relisted it. And sure enough, 9 months later, it sold for more. It sold for $51. Was it 51? No. So it sold for $51 the first time, and the one that was canceled. And then I relisted it for the original price, and it sold for $69 the second time. So again, I disclosed the hole. It was very small, but yeah, a lot of people just like that Rick Owens designer. And so I've sold quite a few flawed items from that designer, and they still sell. All right, next up was a redone sweatshirt. I believe this was in a thrift with me. I found a Peanuts graphic sweatshirt. Redone is pretty expensive. Like this sweatshirt probably retailed for a few $100s. And when I spotted it, I have sold the brand quite a few times. I was excited. I looked it up, and sure enough, this Peanuts graphic was doing pretty well. I think I found one comp, and it sold for $62 pretty quickly, like within a week. So I was thrilled. All right, the same day that I got the Lululemon fleece that I mentioned and the Lazy Oaf sweater, I also got this Ralph Lauren double RL sweater, striped sweater. This sweater, this line by Ralph Lauren does fairly well, and I've sold it quite a few times. So I knew it was a desirable line, and it ended up selling for $62, which I was thrilled about. All right, next up was a pair of shoes. This was a pair of On Running is the brand. The style was the Cloud Venture. It was a men's style. And this sold in a bundle, but outside of the bundle on its own, it sold for $59. And yeah, that brand I've sold a few times now, and usually it goes pretty quickly. So even with some signs of wear, this did pretty well. All right, the next item, I'm almost done with the Poshmark high dollar sales, and then we've got 10 low dollar sales just to share some not so great sales that I've had in the last few months. But this next one was by the brand Aritzia. The line was the Babaton line, and the style of this dress was called the Bennett Dress. And this was just like a shirt dress, long sleeve. I think it was silk. And so I think it was silk. Anyways, that dress sold for $55, and it only took about a month to sell. All right, next up was a Free People sweater, and it's always surprising when I can sell anything Free People over $50, but this style was called the Ottoman sweater. This sold in a bundle for $52, and it sold very quickly. I think it may have sold to a viewer, but I was really quite surprised because it was black, it was kind of slouchy. All right, a sneeze. Oh, allergies. I took my allergy medication. Anyways, so yeah, this sold very quickly, and Free People always surprises me when I can find something that has great comps. Some Free People I can't give away for free, and some will sell pretty well quickly. So that was a good one. Next up was another Rick Owens item. This was a dress this time, a black dress, I believe. And it was a fitted, it had significant pilling, and it still sold very quickly for $51, and I was thrilled. Again, I don't know what it is about Rick Owens, but people like it, and it usually goes quick for me. Anthropologie is another brand that I'm shocked when I can find something that sells for over 50. These pair of jeans, I believe they were size 31 or 32. They were, I think, a boyfriend, more of a relaxed fit, and they had this embroidery, so they kind of had a boho vibe. I believe it was Pilcrow, and the letterpress was the line, which, yeah, it's not a bad line. It's just not a line that typically gets a lot for me to flip, but these did really well. They sold quickly, and they sold for $51. And then last but not least was a pair of Jam's World pants. I found these pants at a thrift store. Again, probably was in a thrift with me. And they were this floral, colorful, new with tags, size large, I believe. And they were still listed on the website, which is fantastic. So I started them at $79. And I ended up getting an offer for $50. And although that was a little bit on the lower side, I still thought, man, I paid $6 for them and I'm getting a $50 offer. Fantastic. So I accepted. So I was really pretty happy with that. So that's my 50 sales of $50 or more. Now let's jump into 10 sales that were $10 or less. I just can't believe this worked out this way. First up, we'll start with Poshmark. It's just no rhyme or reason. There were 4 at Poshmark. Now the downside with Poshmark is if you sell anything under $15, the fee that you're paying Poshmark is just a flat $2.95 fee. So I really try to avoid selling things on Poshmark that are under $15, but sometimes it just happens, and I'm happy to move old stuff, even if I don't make a lot of money, just make my money back, and so I can go buy new stuff that will hopefully be better buys. But this first one was a Madewell dress. So this dress I had listed for a while. It was a size 4. It was by the line Broadway and Broom, which is technically part of the Madewell family. And size 4, I don't know what it was about it, but it sat for a long time. It finally got marked down to $15, and someone, I think I sent out offers or something, bulk offers, and someone accepted the offer, and it was $8.18. I don't know if I'm going to be precise with the exact amount, but usually when they're offers, they are a dollar amount with change. So basically $8 for a dress. And I probably picked it up at the bins, probably paid, $1 because it was so lightweight. It was like a viscose material or something, but still not my ideal situation. It sold for $8, a little over $8. The fee was $3. I probably paid $1.50. So I probably only made a few dollars profit, but at least I did make a profit, and that's important. All right, next up was a pair of Gap jeans. Gap is, I don't mind picking up Gap. I used to wear a lot of Gap growing up, and so I think they make some good pieces, and it's a common brand, but most of the time it doesn't flip for a lot for me. So if I can get it cheap, in this case, I got some Gap jeans for free. I got a whole bunch of jeans. I think it was from one of my cousins. Was it from Laurel? Laurel is someone who is on Instagram, Cotton and Comb. She did my dog's collar or dog tag. She also makes necklaces and lots of stuff like that. Anyways, she's been on this channel before, and occasionally I meet up with her to go thrift. When I met up with her to go thrifting one time, she said a friend of hers had given her a whole bunch of jeans and she wasn't excited about listing them. Most of those jeans have sold. Most of them were Abercrombie & Fitch, American Eagle, Gap, I can't remember, a couple of AG, I think. And most of them weren't worth very much, but I did sell most of them between $10 to $20, and they were all free. So this one, again, I wish I didn't have the $2.95 fee, but they were free, so I still made probably about $5. All right, there was a Lucky brand shirt. I don't know why I picked this up. It was a men's short sleeve button front shirt. I hope I'm getting the right one. And I think it was a size, I can't remember the size, but it looked very small. It wasn't shrunk. It just looked like the size was off. I listed it. I explained the size was a little off. Someone still bought it for $10, and I know I bought it at the bins. I just don't know why. So I did make a small profit, but not much. And lastly was another top. I think I got this in a thread-up box, so I did end up listing it even though I knew it wasn't going to go for much. This was a size 0, I believe, JCrew. It had this kind of ruffle detail, I think, at the top. It was kind of a nice career top to work, why can't I talk? To wear under a blazer or a cardigan. I like JCrew. Some JCrew can do really well, but because of the size and it was kind of a simple style, I knew it wasn't going to get much. So getting $10 for it was great. And I know I made a profit because it was from a thread-up box. So, I don't mind listing all price points, but at least on Poshmark, those fees are pretty astronomical if you sell something too cheap. So, and that's not ideal. All right. And then I had 6 eBay sales that were under $10 or under. All these were under $10. First up was a Diletta blouse. Diletta is an Anthropologie brand, and I rarely pick it up when I see it. But this, I think, also came in a thredUP box or something. Anyways, I had it on auction for $3.99. Someone scooped it up. Sometimes I just put old stuff on auction before I donate it, and that was kind of the situation. It was a cute top, but it did not sell quickly or for much money. Next up was a knitted and knotted cardigan. This was kind of a cap sleeve knit, open knit white cardigan. This has been listed for about 3 years, and it finally sold. So it sold for $9. Don't be jealous. But any of my photos where it's the old marble print behind means it's 3 years old or more. So this has definitely been listed for a long time. I'm sure I got excited because it's an Anthropologie brand and I was new as a reseller and I was excited to pick up anything Anthropologie, but not all Anthropologie. A lot of it actually isn't worth picking up unless you get it free or super cheap like at the bins. But even then, lessons learned, Anthropologie can do well. A lot of it for me is, $15, $20, $25. So in this case, this barely got $9 after 3 years. So whatever, it sold. All right, then I sold a moisturizer. There's this brand that I found at the bins a long time ago, and I picked up a whole bunch of moisturizers, and then there was some face wash. And the brand was called Shaklee, Shaklee. Anyways, so it was about half moisturizers. I don't know why I picked them up. I'm sure I looked up comps. Again, these were probably a couple years old. And I'm sure I looked up comps and it was like, oh, one listing for multiples. And they were all new in box. I've actually sold quite a few of them, but all of them right around that like $10 mark. This one sold for $8. And I think I removed the listings. I was like, no, I'm just... These have been sitting for a long time. I've moved some of them. I've made my money. I've made a profit on what I paid on them, but they just weren't worth it to store it for me anymore. All right, next up was a pair of JCrew shorts. These also, I believe, came from a thredUP box, and they were a blue, kind of a dressy style short. Really bright, nice color blue, but I knew they weren't going to get much. They eventually sold for $9, and, again, JCrew, people do buy it. And some of it can go for much more, but a lot of it it's a mall brand, so some of it will only sell for around that $10 mark. All right, next up was another pair of Gap jeans. This was the same freebie jeans haul. It wasn't a haul, but anyways, it was free jeans for me. These sold for $7. Again, I know everyone's envious of this, but $7. These were a boyfriend style skinny jean, and yeah, I mean, at least the fees on eBay with lower dollar items aren't so extreme. It's still a percentage. So I probably still made about $5 on those, which I'm happy. And then lastly, there was an American Living dress. American Living is a brand that I believe is at Nordstrom Rack and maybe Nordstrom even. Anyways, it's not super expensive, but it's not, by no means is it cheap. This was a really cute little white eyelet dress. Also came from a thredUP box, and it finally sold. I think it was a size 4 or something, a little on the small side. Anyways, it sold for $9, and I am happy. Older stuff moving. I didn't lose money on any of these, and I think it's important to share that while I do have some high dollar stuff, I still ship out some low dollar items, and fortunately not too many of them. But I hope you enjoyed this really long what sold video. And thank you again to Primelister for sponsoring and continuing to sponsor and support this channel. I use their platform every single day, and I'm quite thrilled with it. And I think it's a great option if you're looking at a cross listing or Poshmark automation service. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.